Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Antonio Neves, and welcome to Campus Live. This is from campus.about.me, from the about.me family. Campus.about.me is helping college students excel on and off campus, and that's why we're doing events just like this. And I'm really excited to have a friend of mine joining us here today for Campus Live. This is Jess Ekstrom, and I could go on and on about Jess and her accomplishments. Jess is a graduate of North Carolina State University. Jess is the founder of Headbands of Hope. She'll tell us all about that in a little bit. Jess is the author of the Freshman Fabulous, the Girl's Guide to College. Some reason she left the fellas out, but that's okay. We'll talk about that here in a second. So you can find her on about.me at about.me/Jess Ekstrom. If you have questions, if you go to the left part of the screen, you can hit the Q&A button, ask a question. We'll get to as many of those as we can. But how about we get rolling right now? Jess Ekstrom, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's do this. Before we talk about Headbands of Hope and your book and all that kind of fun stuff, first, who are you? Describe who you were as a college student at North Carolina State.
Can you hear me?
I'm getting you. Hold on. Let's see if we get you back
Okay.
here. Yeah, I got you now. Go for it.
Okay. The last thing I said was thanks for being here, and I said glad to be here. Thanks for having me, and that
Okay,
was it.
so here's my next question. My question is, give us an idea of who you were when you were a student at North Carolina State.
Yeah, when I was at NC State, it kind of was this transition period for me. When I was in high school, I wasn't that big of an overachiever, just kind of doing enough to get by. And when I got to college, I just kind of got this sense of purpose and motivation in my community and started to get more involved. And so I think my freshman and sophomore year, I was that girl that wanted to do a little of everything. And then once I got older and figured out what I liked and what I didn't like, I wanted to do a lot of a couple of different things, which ended up being Headbands of Hope.
Right. So talk a little bit about involvement because listen, you're on college campuses all the time as a speaker. I'm on college campuses all the time as a speaker as well. And I think there's just a unique hybrid. There's students that are crazy involved in everything, and then you have a batch of students that for some reason they maybe they don't get involved or they don't know where to get started. Can you just talk a little bit about the value of being involved besides just going to classes or if you happen to have a job, but getting involved in the greater campus community?
Yeah, definitely. I think you find out a lot about yourself outside the classroom. I think that I would not have been here today if I didn't take that chance to just apply for internships, join organizations, because I think you really learn by doing. And student organizations and campus clubs give you the opportunity to do that and find that and focus on you as a more holistic person and not just what your GPA is.
And what would you say to that person who says, "I hear you, Jess, but I'm a little bit shy. Like I don't know. I'm a little bit shy. I don't know where to begin. I understand this is better. This is good for my well-being, my growth, my development. But for that person who is shy, what would you suggest to them?"
I'm taking you're that kind of shy person, right, Antonio?
You know it. You know it exactly.
No, I think that it's just taking those little steps. I honestly believe sometimes the biggest step of your life can just be a tiny step in the right direction. And I think that you build your own network and make that campus, that college campus, seem smaller when you involve yourself in different areas of interest. So if anything, I think it makes it a less intimidating experience for a student to choose to be involved in something and meet with people who have those same interests.
I think you bring up a really good point in terms of making the campus feel small because there are some students that go to the colleges that have less than 3,000 students, and there are some
Yeah.
universities, whether you're at University of Central Florida or a Ohio State University, you have 30, 40 plus thousand students, and that can be overwhelming. But you have a great point in terms of joining these organizations and getting involved makes it a lot smaller. Let's shift gears real quick. A lot of people, if they happen to do a Google search on you, they're going to see that you're the founder of Headbands of Hope. Just describe to the community what is Headbands of Hope.
Yeah, so Headbands of Hope is a company that for every headband we sell, we donate a headband to a child with cancer. A lot of girls who lose their hair to chemotherapy can experience some identity issues, self-esteem, and so headbands are a great way to combat that through fashion and accessories, and that's what we do. It's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, and you started this organization while you were in college. So of course,
Yeah.
college students are busy enough already. You have classes, maybe you have a job. But how did you go about starting this organization? What was the impetus for it?
So my freshman year, I decided to do an internship in Disney World, Disney College Program. I know we have that in common, Antonio. And when I was there, I was a photographer and got to photograph a lot of Make-A-Wish families. So kids, seeing the castle for the first time or meeting the princesses. And I fell in love with the organization. So I got back my sophomore year and interned at Make-A-Wish. And when I was there, that's when I met these kids that would migrate towards headbands instead of wigs after hair loss. So I started to research organizations that could provide headbands for kids with cancer and realized that that was a connection that hadn't been made yet. And so I remember calling Goody's Hair Accessories from my dorm room and asking them to donate headbands. And they actually did. A week later, I had 1,000 headbands sitting at my door. And once I distributed all of them, I realized I needed a model that was more sustainable than just calling companies and asking them for headbands. So I started Headbands of Hope my junior year. Yeah.
Give me an idea and give the people who are watching an idea of like where do you stand as a company right now? How many headbands have gone out?
Yeah.
How many young women and people with cancer have you supported?
So we just celebrated donating headbands to every children's hospital in the United States, which I'm
Wow.
super pumped about. I think we're at around like 60,000 headbands that we've given out. And now we're working with hospitals in Canada. I just got back from a trip from Europe and distributed headbands to Children's Hospital Barcelona. It's been a really amazing experience. And we've even started a line for boys to give boys something. And then we also just launched a whole nother product line called the Hope Market, where we fund different childhood cancer charities every month. So we're rocking and rolling, and it's really fun.
Yeah, congratulations on all that success. That's massive. And
Yeah.
listen, we're talking about something like supporting people, let's just shift and talk about volunteering and giving back. And for you, I know it's really important for you and on college campuses, the organization, volunteering
Yeah.
is really important. When you speak, and I've seen you speak many times, you talk a lot about a lot of times with volunteering, you're required to do this. You join X or Y organization, and you have to do X amount of hours before the semester is over. But you say, don't require people to do this.
Right.
Inspire them to do it. So can you share a little about that?
Yeah, I think that our whole lives we've kind of been programmed to think of philanthropy and service and giving back as something that will look good on a resume or something that, we can post on social media to boost our reputation or something that we have to do because we're required. And when that happens, it kind of skews our definition and meaning of that philanthropy and that giving experience. So I try to encourage students to not focus so much on the numbers and the requirements and focus on the people and focus on the cause and do something when no one's watching. Go volunteer on a Saturday and don't tell anyone and don't post about it because that's when you really get that raw experience.
Yes, you're right. Like you don't have to share everything.
Exactly.
It still happened if you didn't post it.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that too.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I'm actually taking a photo of us right now talking. So,
Selfie, yeah.
But as it relates to that, though, listen, this is another side of it. Let's not lie. Volunteering, of course, you're supporting other people, other communities, people who may be in need or need a helping hand, etc. But let's be real, it also provides us with something as well, right?
Yeah, no, I think that one thing that has changed my life is the perspective that I've gained through all of this. Being a business owner and just being a human, we lose it sometimes. We'll flip out over a parking ticket. If the numbers aren't going so well in my business, it's stressful. Little things really add up. And when you give back and when you have these experiences, I remember one girl, she didn't want to go to kindergarten because she was afraid everyone would think she was a boy because she lost her hair in chemotherapy. But when she got her headband in the hospital, her mom said she laid out her outfit and her backpack and was like so stoked to go to kindergarten because she regained that confidence. And so it's stories like that if I can hold on to that and keep that as an anchor, I realize that the problems that I think I have aren't really problems at all.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're talking about is not making it about I or me, but making it about us, making it about we.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I want to talk about your book. You had a book that came out. I was just on Amazon checking out a lot of great reviews. I think you have like 5 stars.
Yeah.
There are tons of reviews that people have wrote as well.
Yeah.
and it's called the Freshman Fabulous, a girl's guide to college. Correct?
Yes, I'm sure you're a fan.
I'm like, yo, she left the fellas out. But no, I mean, I think you have
Yeah.
to be specific and you targeted that correctly, and it speaks
Yeah,
to an audience that you know well. I want to talk
exactly.
about a few things that you talk about in the book. One thing,
Mhm.
let's talk about internships for a second. I love internships. Internships changed my life. A
Yeah.
lot of people, I think, on college campuses feel a little bit overwhelmed, and they don't know where to begin to obtain an internship, whether it's in the same city where they live, whether it's out of state, whether it's a big organization, small organization.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity just to intern with organizations like Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Hmm.
You interned with the Today Show in New York City. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned earlier, we both, during college, internship with the Walt Disney World program. So
Yeah.
for that student that's watching this right now and they say, I want to get an internship, just where does he or she begin?
Yeah. So the one thing I will say is don't wait for an email notification that says an internship is available to start looking for internships. For Make-A-Wish, they didn't even have intern programs on their site. I just called their 1-800 line and said, "What can I do to help?" Basically begged them to have coffee with me, and that's how I got an internship with Make-A-Wish. And every single internship I did snowballed into the next one. And that's how I started to really figure out what I want to do with my life and build that network and build those connections. But another thing is like don't limit yourself to, one, specific field. If you're interested in event planning and you do an internship in finance or marketing, that's great because that's going to help you with event planning. So try to learn all the different aspects of every kind of job and not just one in particular to figure out what you're good at. And I'd also recommend interning for a larger corporation and a smaller corporation. Maybe you won't have a lot of responsibility in the bigger corporation, but you can learn kind of how it works, like what I did at Disney World. And then intern for something small where you do have a lot of responsibility and you can build off of that and kind of learn from both worlds for sure.
So it sounds like you mentioned regarding Make-A-Wish, it's really critical to be proactive. If you're, like,
Definitely.
again, waiting for an email to show up with an announcement, if you're only going to job boards or looking at something on a wall or submitting your resume to a company's internship program via their website, you may be behind the curve. Be a little bit more proactive, you're saying.
Exactly. Don't just think about what's available, think about what you want. If there's a company that you respect and admire or an entrepreneur that you want to work for, how can you help them? What can you do? And don't just wait for like an internship program to prop up. And also, I think that our world is changing into virtual internships too. A lot of the interns that we have for Headbands of Hope are right on their campus and do their internship virtually, which is also an option for a lot of companies now.
Right. Right. I think students feel a lot of times extremely overwhelmed with, am I
Yeah.
going to make the right decision now? Not only with the job that they potentially get after they graduate from college, but am I selecting the right internship? And if I'm hearing you correctly, you gave the example of interning with a small company and a large one as well. Like, it's not so much about the company or the industry. It sounds like, no, it's about the experience.
Yeah, and it's about doing it. It's about working with people, going to meetings, figuring out, the dynamics of a job, like getting dressed. What do you wear? It's a lot just about the experience of interning and maybe not exactly about your position. And even just interviewing as many times as you can get in front of someone to interview. It doesn't matter if you get the job or not. Maybe it does, but I think just as many times as you can just get in front of people, that's always a good thing.
Right. And what would you say once you do land that internship? Again, whether, say, you're interested in broadcasting and you get a job with a local radio station in your college community, or you get one with another company like a Walt Disney World or elsewhere, you get the internship.
Mhm.
What do you do now to
Yeah.
make sure that you stand out and that you are indispensable and memorable?
Yeah, one thing I always recommend is make your work measurable. If you are in charge of handling all the social media for an organization, figure out how many followers did they have when you start, how many followers do they have when you finish? Because when it comes to that time where you want to turn that internship into a job, someone isn't going to hire you because you're a people person or because you say that you work hard or because you come in happy. They're going to hire you because of tangible and visible evidence that you provided the business or organization. So whatever you can do to measure your results and show the value that you bring to the organization, definitely do that. And also understand who you're working with. I always say, know the players or you won't know how to know those. Also on your same level, know who's the receptionist. Get to know every single person there and learn about that company culture so you can be a part of it.
So make relation, of course, do excellent work, stand out, make it measurable, but make excellent relationships as well so people know who you are.
Exactly.
Briefly, you know, listen, I'm kind of torn on this one right here because on campuses right now, I'm gonna put it out there. I'm a firm believer that sometimes the busier you are, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes on a college campus, having a job is a huge benefit to you. Having a job on campus on top of your classes.
Mm-hmm.
What I hear, a refrain I hear a lot is that I'm focused on my studies. I just want to focus on my studies. And I'm like, hey, that's cool. I don't want you not to focus on your studies, but there could be a benefit, some advantages to having a job on campus or off campus as well, whether that's just 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week. And there's some great posts on campus.about.me on this topic. What's your opinion on having a job while you're in school, whether you need the money or not?
Right. I mean, I think that it depends on what kind of involvement that you want while you're on campus. I agree with you. I think that being busy is a good thing. I think that whether it's a paying job or not, there should be something outside of class that you're doing, whether it's giving tours on campus and just learning how to get in front of people. When I was on campus, I was a tour guide and a fitness instructor, which is why I think I'm so comfortable with public speaking now, is because I got all the kinks out when I was in college. Whether I was getting paid to do that or not was kind of beside the point. I think it just was a matter of getting those experiences. I think, you know, depending on your financial standing, if you need to get a job, you can handle it. I think that you can learn that balance of focusing on your schoolwork, but also doing what you need to do outside of that and getting involved.
It's pretty gangster. You're a fitness instructor. You're giving out tours.
Yeah, don't mess with me, right?
That's what's up. You didn't mess around. I like that, but that diversity is cool and connecting with people. But I agree with everything you said there. Let's talk about a couple other things that are in your book that we'll maybe do some not rapid fire, but we can go through a few things so we can be as helpful as we can to people that are watching. Studying abroad. Studying abroad changed my life when I studied abroad in Spain. It's something that if my freshman year you would have told me that by my senior year I'd be studying abroad, I was like, what are you talking about? First, what is studying abroad? Right. But what are you talking about? I'm going to be in Spain, a foreign country, crossing an ocean. What's your opinion on studying abroad and the benefits of doing that?
Yeah, and that is probably one of my biggest regrets in college. I had saved up all my money for my Disney internship to study abroad in Spain, so maybe we would have met up. But I had saved up everything because that was part of my plan to do that. And then I got the idea for Headbands of Hope and chose to put the money into that instead. But if it wasn't for Headbands of Hope, I would have definitely done it. I actually just got back from Europe for the first time, really traveling overseas. And it just opens up your world and you realize how small you are. And you realize how much else is out there. And the earlier you can realize that and come to that, come to that understanding, the better. So if that's in college, great, go for it.
Yeah, I think I guess we can link this beyond studying abroad as well, but also it sounds like putting yourself in those situations where you're a little bit
uncomfortable,
where you're uncomfortable, which is going to cause regular, ongoing growth.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we don't get inspired from doing things that we do every day. I think it comes from when you're in that third party, seeing things for the first time, and just kind of like the first time dipping your feet into that water is when we see what we can do, where there's areas of need, and how we can fix it. So whether that's through internships, going to another country, running for leadership in an organization, just kind of putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions, but also understanding that it's not always going to work out. I think that people see my internships and the things I did, had anyone say no to me, but that's not true at all. I've gotten a lot of no's, and I think I'm better for it.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Well, first, I love the quote you said. That you said something to the extent of, and I guarantee Zoe from our social media team is tweeting this out. But you think you said we don't get inspired from doing the same thing every day.
Exactly.
Uh, from doing
Yeah.
what we, yeah.
Retweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's share that out there. Now I forgot what question I was going to ask you next. What did you end on there?
Oh, about failures and getting no's.
Oh, right. So people, listen, they Google you and they see you on the Today Show. They see you listed in different magazines for your work with Headbands of Hope. Again, the Google search. And I like to talk about this during my talks. Like Google only tells part of the story. It's the story that we can
Exactly.
manufacture, that we can share, what our resume can share. But there is so much about you and the ups, and I'm sure some downs probably as well, running an organization, especially while you're in college, that the world doesn't know about. So could you just let people know that things aren't always perfect in the
Yeah.
world of entrepreneurship and college life?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of give the example sometimes of my start with failure was when I read Chicken Soup for the Soul in middle school. I was obsessed with the books and I realized I could be in chicken soup. So I sent poems in every day. Not even a good poet, but I probably sent like 100 poems into Chicken Soup and they finally published one. And so my big break was getting in the local paper when I was 12 years old for being published in Chicken Soup. But I didn't tell anyone that I was rejected 100 times before that. I only had to be right once. I only had to write one good poem to get that recognition and to get where I wanted to be. And that's kind of the mentality that I've had. Moved on from chicken soup, but you only have to write one good poem. You have to be right once, whether there's a bunch of no's. We have a lot of celebrities that wear our headbands now, but that doesn't come with a lot of people who haven't wanted to wear our headbands. So I think the more comfortable we get with failure, the more we'll be willing to reach further.
Right. I think we also look at failure in the lens of just experience, right? This is, hey, we
Yeah,
tried it out, it didn't work. By the way,
exactly.
I think our viewers are learning a lot about you. Like they're like, what kind of kid was Jess Ekstrom? Well, she liked to write poems that sent into chicken soup for the
So
teenage.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you were.
Oh gosh.
That's
I wonder
hilarious.
why I didn't have that many friends back then. Now I know why. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I can't come over today because I'm writing a poem to getting chicken
Oh,
soup for the teenage soul. That's awesome, though. Sorry, I'm not.
that was like I thought I was so cool because of it, which is
It is
the funny
cool.
part.
It
Yeah.
is cool, but you're right. The newspaper writes about that one time you got published. They're not going to
Yeah.
write about the 99 times or the other times that it didn't happen. Let's
Yeah.
shift gears real quick. In your book, you touch on a subject that is real in life after college and even before college, but roommates.
Oh yeah.
What do you share in your book about, if someone is experiencing some challenges with roommates, or how can they set the tone right,
Yeah.
whether you're rocking a roommate in a residence hall that's brand new to you, or even when you find your way into off-campus housing?
Yeah, I think one of the first times in my life where I had a real conversation with someone, like a real confrontation, like because usually, when that happens in our lives, we just kind of turn our shoulder and go away. But when we get to college, that roommate's not going away, and they're going to be there when you wake up, and they're going to be there when you go to bed. So you might as well take this time to learn to work through problems. So kind of starting off with saying it nicely, like, hey, I wouldn't, would you mind if when you ate my Cheerios, if you rolled the bag down, like no big deal. And just little things like that. And that's a real situation, by the way. And then kind of taking it from there. But it was the first time where I had to be honest with someone and kind of get uncomfortable with confrontation. But you learn to talk through your problems. And roommates were the first experience I had with that.
And for those people, like there's moments where we don't want that, confrontation, right? Like it's very rare
Yeah.
when you tell someone, yo, stop being my Cheerios, son. It's very
Yeah.
rare that a fist fight is going to happen from that. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Uh, but your willingness just to have those conversations, I'm assuming you would say a lot of growth and development can come from that, and that will serve you as you move forward in life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that being honest and being calm, cool, and collected is also something else because I see so many times where someone's living with each other for the first time. You kind of let things bottle up, like, oh, you're gonna soak that dish, just let it soak for a week. And then all of a sudden you just lose it, and that's unhealthy. And so I think addressing the source of the problem when it happens is a really healthy habit to get into.
Yeah, it makes a really big difference. It's just being real. And when we
Yeah.
don't share what's on our mind, those moments when, like you said, we let it simmer and let it boil up,
Oh
we're not
yeah.
serving ourselves or we're not helping ourselves.
Yeah.
By the way, someone at Full Sail University in Florida, Jasper, what's up, Jasper? Said he says he's actually in class right now. Uh, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your life and letting us learn from your experiences. That always takes guts.
Oh, thanks,
Actually,
Jasper.
Jasper is a woman, not a dude. I just looked at the picture, so you learn
That's a
things.
cool name. I like that.
Jasper's a dope. Jasper Johns was a famous artist. Has nothing to do with the person who asked the question, but uh, thank you, Jasper, for that question. Let's go to another question before we run out of time. We have probably time for one or two more questions, Jess, and that is, what would you say? People come to college, and I think all the emphasis seems to be get a job in 4 years after you graduate.
Yeah.
Of course, there are 5 million different things you can experience on campus and off campus. But whether you're beginning, this fall you began your career at a university as a freshman, or you are into your sophomore or junior year, etc., what do you recommend for mapping out a good college career? I know that's a big question,
Yeah.
but if you want to map out, say, hey, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't leave campus without experiencing these few things. What would you say? Or you can
Yeah.
focus on one area if you like.
So I have this little trick that I learned once that I think is really cool, and it's writing your future bio. So it's like, what would you want someone to say about you if they're writing an article about you, 5 years down the road? What does that look like? And it's going to sound really weird and probably be uncomfortable at first, but I think you learn a lot about yourself and what you want, because I think asking yourself, what do I want in life, or where do I want to be? Those are really big questions and can almost be sometimes more hurtful than helpful because it's so overwhelming. But when you kind of narrow it down and think, well, what would I want someone to say about me who's writing a story about me to say? That kind of simplifies the process and maybe digs in spots that you wouldn't have before. And then think about, well, what do I need to do to get there? Is it getting mentors in college, getting an advisor that you meet with once a week? Is it starting an organization? And it's just kind of narrowing down that big picture into tiny steps that we can do along the way in college.
It's a great answer. And this is going to be our last question for the day. For that person who's really inspired by you and your work with Headbands of Hope and giving back and supporting people, and that person on campus, they want to give back. They want to find a cause that they believe in and care about. But again, they
Yeah.
don't know where to start because they're just overwhelmed with the choices in front of them. Where does that person start to get involved and to give back?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to what I said before about trying new things and getting in those new situations. It's seeing things for the first time. So whether it's going out on a Saturday with no friends to, an event that you saw posted on a bulletin board somewhere, or whether it's, talking to the Chamber of Commerce in your community and seeing how you can help, and just putting yourself out there. I think inspiration isn't going to be this big tidal wave that crashes over us, and sometimes we wait for that moment. It's just going to be a little spark that ignites inside of you, and you have to make that choice of whether you're passionate about it or not. And you'll do that from putting yourselves in situations where you can see things for the first time. So whatever you can do to do that, you have my approval.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. And Jess, thank you so much for joining us for this. Again, Jess is the founder of Headbands of Hope. You can go to headbandsofhope.com, correct?
Yes, that's it.
You can find more information on her at about.me/Jess Ekstrom. Her book, I'll make sure I get the title right, The Freshman Fabulous, A Girl's Guide to College, is out right now. Check that out. And of course, tons of amazing content for college students is available on campus.about.me. We're all about helping students excel on and off campus. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. Jess, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.